Just give everyone a moment to come in from the waiting room. As a reminder, please mute yourself unless your item has been called. Good morning. This is an emergency hearing before the Licensing Board for the City of Boston. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That's what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Licensing Board. Today I'm joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. If all individuals in attendance could please make sure that their audio and video are working, your video will be necessary to be sworn into the record. I will read each item on the agenda into the record. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department. And I will then ask if there are any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record and the licensee will have the opportunity to make a statement before questions by the chairwoman and commissioners. Again, please ensure both your audio and video are working. Calling Perkins Square Restaurant LLC, doing business as Fat Baby Sushi and Cocktails. The licensed premise is located at 118 Dorchester Avenue. The date of the incident was February 5th, 2021. The incident was the failure to adhere to the governor's executive order and the board's advisory limiting capacity to 25% of total seating capacity, excluding staff. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
It's Mike Shaw. I own Fat Baby in South Boston.
Thank you. Who will be testifying on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Detective Gallagher.
Thank you, Sergeant. Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Detective Hernandez.
Thank you, Detective. If you could all please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
You may proceed with the police report, Sergeant.
Yes, good morning. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher with the Licensed Premise Unit. This morning, I'll be reading a Boston Police Incident Report that I wrote on 2/5/2021 at 10:35 p.m. Sergeant Detective Gallagher and Detective Hernandez, assigned to the Licensed Premise Unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Fat Baby Sushi at 118 Dorchester Street. Inside the premise, detectives spoke to the manager, Cassie Chapman, asking her what the reduced capacity was for the premise and as to her current count. Ms. Chapman reported that she had 34 patrons inside, but some were in the process of leaving. Detective Hernandez conducted a count of the premise, which resulted in 41 patrons present. The premise's normal capacity is listed at 117. The reduced capacity would be 30. Detectives gave this information to Ms. Chapman and reiterated the importance of adhering to the governor and Boston Licensing Board guidelines for COVID-19. Ms. Chapman said she would bring the premise into compliance. As a result, what detectives had observed, Sergeant Gallagher issued licensed premise inspection notice number 004056 to the Fat Baby Sushi for failure to adhere to Governor and Boston Licensing Board COVID guidelines, 25% reduced capacity. Ms. Cassie Chapman signed for and accepted the notice. In addition, detectives gave Ms. Chapman a notice of the emergency hearing, which is taking place right now. Those are essentially other facts.
Thank you, Sergeant. Mr. Shaw, would you like to make a statement?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, Casey, she's a good operator and a trustworthy manager. She's been with us for a number of years running one of our restaurants and doesn't make operational errors, at least to all our knowledge. I think there was a lot of confusion in our business, quite frankly, last week with the announcement, and then obviously kicking up to 40% on Monday. She made the corrective measures very quickly. I went over to the restaurant as soon as I heard and checked the tapes to make sure that, she took the right action to get us within compliance within minutes of the detectives leaving, even, during the stay, trying to make sure that we got back down to getting in compliance with, what she was told to do. And, we made the adjustments as quickly as we possibly could. It was probably, I can say with a surety and oversight on her part. I think it's important that I think you've heard this over the last, we're operating at 30 or 40% some weeks year over year on sales. So an extra 6 or 8 people in our restaurant it's not helping. That's not going to make the difference. So something like this it's probably an oversight and a miscommunication with the information that was put out last week without it kicking in on Monday. But she did make the corrective action very, very quickly to get us within compliance.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce?
Thanks. Mr. Shaw, just to emphasize that we've been tasked with enforcing these COVID regulations that the governor has put out. We understand how difficult it is for the restaurants that are operating right now. We are responsible for regulating the restaurants. Any violation, any COVID violation is putting your annual liquor license at risk and the livelihood of your staff. Have you retrained your staff about what the capacity is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we almost immediately after this, we got with our leadership and talked to them about, the time frame on the 25% when it went up to 40% yesterday, making sure that we were all set to go, making sure that those capacity limits were well known within our company. And, we've been operating down here for a long time, and these are things that, we try to avoid at all costs and typically do very, very well. We've just, we understand the severity of this, and we're doing everything we can with our team to try to make sure that, we're kind of all in this together to try to keep our business and our industry moving forward.
Okay, and just for my own clarification, on a night like Friday night, how many staff do you have working?
2 or 3 front of house, including management, and I think we'll have 6 cooks on and a chef.
So there is somebody at the door that is tasked with counting people as they come in?
Yes, our manager.
Okay, and that would have been Ms. Chapman that night?
Yep, that would have been Casey.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
None at this time, thanks.
Nothing more for me, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, is there a motion to vote on this matter today?
I make a motion to vote on this matter.
Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Saxon. All in favor?
Yes.
None opposed. Chairwoman Joyce?
I do find a violation of the COVID-19 guidelines. I make a motion. Leslie, is that what you want me to do? Just
Yes, please.
state whether I find a violation. So I do find a violation of the COVID-19 guidelines. I recommend a warning and retraining of the staff.
I agree as well.
Commissioner Saxon, you agree?
I do, I agree.
Thank you. The board issues a warning and retraining of the staff, and you will receive a written decision as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Juan Reyes, as an individual doing business as the Miami Restaurant located at 381 Center Street. The date of the incident was February 5th, 2021. Failure to adhere to the governor's executive order and the board's advisory prohibiting uses ancillary to drinking, karaoke. Failure to adhere to the governor's executive order and the board's advisory limiting capacity to 25% of the total seating capacity, excluding staff. And failure to adhere to the board's advisory limiting party size to 6 patrons. Is there anyone present on behalf of the licensee?
Yeah, my dad. He doesn't speak any English, but I can translate for him.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was your name?
My name is ESMIL. My last name is DUME.
Okay. And are you comfortable translating? We also have someone from our office who can translate, but if you're comfortable, that's fine.
Yeah, if you have somebody from your office, I feel like he would benefit more.
Okay. Ms. Owilda Reyes?
Yes,
All right, would you be able to assist with translation?
yes, I can.
All right.
And
And is, I'm sorry, is Juan Reyes, is that your father?
Yo soy el administrador de Juan Reyes, o sea, el manager.
He's the manager, he's saying.
Okay, and could you ask him his name, please?
Ella quiere saber que diga que si usted puede decir tu nombre.
Rafael Dumé.
Thank you. And who present on behalf of the Boston Police Department will testify?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher.
Thank you. Are there any individuals with personal knowledge who wish to testify regarding this matter?
Detective Hernandez if needed.
Thank you. And if all parties could raise their hand, Wilda, if you could please ask Mr. Dume to raise his right hand.
Señor, tiene que levantar la mano, asegurar que todo que ella va a decir, que tú vas a decir aquí en la reunión es verdad.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do.
Señor, ¿vas a decir la verdad?
Perfecto, sí, cómo no.
Okay. He says he does.
Thank you. And Sergeant, you can proceed with the police report.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll read one paragraph, then I'll stop so we can translate, then I'll continue on to the next one to make sure there's understanding.
Thank you.
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher from the Boston Police Unit this morning. I'll be reading from a Boston Police Incident Report that I wrote on 2/5/2021 at 9:52 p.m. Officers assigned to the licensed premise unit conducted an inspection of the Miami restaurant at 381 Center Street. This inspection came about because of a call to the mayor's hotline for the premise not adhering to COVID-19 guidelines. This call came on the 4th and stated the premise was overcrowded and conducting karaoke.
Okay, so señor, el officer dice que fueron donde su lugar por una llamada que llamaron sobre la mayor's hotline, sobre ustedes no escuchando los guidelines de COVID-19. So por eso ellos tenían que entrar a su lugar porque estaban oyendo que había mucha gente ahí adentro y que ustedes estaban también, ustedes tenían usado de máquina de karaoke con la gente que estaban ahí adentro. Go ahead, Sarge.
Okay, as detectives entered the premise, they observed patrons take part in karaoke. A microphone was being passed between patrons. Detectives also observed to be 8 patrons sitting at tables.
Y él sigue diciendo que cuando ellos entraron, ellos estaban viendo que habían gente participando con el karaoke, que tenían un micrófono y que se lo estaban pasando a cada gente. Y también la policía vio que había una mesa que tenían 8 gente sentados cuando debía de tener 6. Go ahead.
Detectives introduced themselves to the employees and asked to speak with the manager. Mr. Rafael Dume made himself known to detectives. Mr. Dume only spoke Spanish, and Miami employees translated for detectives.
Que las policías entraron para hablar con los empleados y también para preguntar para el manager. Y cuando hablaron con él, que usted le dejó saber que ustedes solamente habló español y entonces tus empleados estaban tratando de ayudar para traducir. Go ahead.
Mr. Dume was informed that under the current COVID-19 recovery phase, karaoke where a microphone was passed around to unmasked patrons was not allowed. In addition, Miami's 2020 entertainment license did not list karaoke as an approved form of entertainment.
Señor, tú puedes bajar la mano a este tiempo y asegura, y también para decir que cuando ellos entraron para hablar contigo sobre el recovery phase del COVID-19 y para dejarte saber que usted no tenía, que no podía tener karaoke y que ustedes no podían pasar el micrófono como ustedes lo estaban haciendo, y que habían gente que no tenía máscara puesta y que eso no se puede hacer. Y también te dejaron saber que ustedes no tenían que solamente tenían el 2020 licencia de entertainment, y también no decía karaoke. So ustedes no podían tener karaoke porque ustedes no tienen la licencia para tenerlo en el entertainment license. Go ahead.
On inspection of Miami's current common victual license, the capacity is 19. Detective Fernandez conducted a count of the premise, which was 8. Mr. Dume was informed that he was over his 25 capacity figure of 5.
que también te explicaron que ustedes tenían el 19 personas adentro del restaurante y también que ustedes tenían que debían de tener, que tú tenías 8, pero debían de tener 5 y eso era el 25% de la capacidad que ustedes debían de tener las semanas atrás. Go ahead.
Detectives reiterated the importance of following the governor and Boston Licensing Board guidelines for COVID-19. As a result, when observed, detectives issued a licensed premise inspection notice 004054 to Miami for failure to adhere to COVID-19 guidelines, karaoke, live entertainment taking place, and failure to adhere to reduced capacity. Mr. Dume signed for and accepted the notice.
Que la policía te estaban explicando la importancia de las reglas del gobierno y de la ciudad de Boston sobre la información de COVID-19 y también ellos te dejaron saber que te iban a dar esta nota del issued license premise y la nota número 004054 para el restaurant Miami y dejándose saber que ustedes no estaban escuchando las reglas y también dejándoles saber otra vez que ustedes estaban jugando de karaoke vivo y ustedes no tienen vivo en la licencia y también dejándoles saber otra vez que ustedes no tenían la capacidad del 25%. Y el señor Dunn cogió la nota y lo firmó y se lo entregaron. Go ahead.
Finally, in addition, Sergeant Gallagher informed Mr. Dume that he must take part in an emergency licensing report hearing this Tuesday, February 9th at 11 a.m. Those are the facts.
Y te dejaron saber a ellos salieron que ustedes tenían que venir hoy, como tú estás ahora, para la reunión de un Emergency Licensing Board hearing el martes, febrero 2 a las 11.
Thank you.
Done.
Could you please ask
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dume if he would like to make a statement to the board about what happened that night?
Ellos quieren saber si ustedes quieren decir algo sobre lo que pasó esa noche.
Sí, en verdad yo no sabía de que tenía que sacar el permiso del karaoke y en verdad yo no tenía 30 y pico, como dicen, de personas. Habían de la capacidad que dice más o menos 18, 19 personas en el lugar y el certificado yo lo pagué, lo estoy esperando, como me llegó la licencia por correo, estoy esperando el certificado también, ese.
El
no,
certificado de que del entertainment.
ajá, que no me ha llegado, pero yo lo
Okay.
pagué, eso está pago. O sea
Pero,
que...
okay, déjame dejarlo saber. He said that he did not know that he could not do karaoke. He said that he paid for the license and he hasn't received the entertainment license, he's meaning, and he hasn't received it yet.
Okay. Thanks, Awilda, if you don't mind hanging on.
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Dume, are you aware that our inspectors went out that evening in response to a complaint that came into the mayor's hotline?
La señora quiere saber que si ustedes sabían que la policía entraron para dejarte saber lo que ustedes no podían hacer por la llamada que recibieron en el mayor's hotline.
Al otro día, sí, la policía fue. Ellos estaban ahí, yo estaba comprando un artículo para el negocio. Cuando yo llegué, ellos estaban ahí. La
So,
niña
el otro día de la noche del...
Ajá. O sea,
he's saying
fue...
that he realized the next day that they came in.
Okay, thank you, Awilda.
By that, yeah.
My biggest concern today is the communication and understanding of the governor's COVID guidelines. So I just want to go over them with Mr. Dume.
Ok, ella quiere, lo que le pasa con la oficina es que ella quiere que usted entiende que tú tienes que hacer lo que dice el Estado y lo que dice la ciudad de Boston sobre las reglas del COVID-19. Porque si alguien se enferma en su lugar porque ustedes están haciendo algo de lo que no se debe de hacer, entonces ella quiere explicar lo que tú debes de hacer y no lo que no debes de hacer. ¿Entiendes?
Perfecto, sí, estoy de acuerdo con eso.
Okay.
Lo que yo le digo es que yo no sabía que tenía que tener el permiso para el karaoke.
No, pero entendemos eso, pero si tú no tienes karaoke en la licencia, tú no puedes hacer lo que tú quieras hacer. He's basically explaining how he didn't know he couldn't have karaoke and that he needed special permission. And I just basically said, if you don't have it on your license, you can't just do what you want. That's not on your license.
Okay.
Y si tú tenías karaoke, señor, en este tiempo ahora por COVID y la enfermedad, ustedes no pueden bregar, nadie puede hacer karaoke para este tiempo. No es solamente su lugar. I just explained that even if he did have karaoke on his license, he just can't have karaoke. We're in the middle of a pandemic and he can't do that.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So, Wilda, can you just remind him that we are living in a public health crisis right now?
Ella quiere dejarte saber que la situación ahora mismo está bien grave y ustedes no pueden estar haciendo las cosas como tú lo estabas haciendo. So, ustedes no pueden hacer karaoke, no pueden coger un micrófono y darse a la gente. Ustedes tienen que, si es 40% ahora mismo que puedes tener en su lugar, eso es lo que tienen que tener. Si la gente tienen que tener la máscara puesta, ustedes tienen que hacer todo lo que ustedes pueden hacer para la gente no se enferma. Go ahead.
Sí, gracias. Yo le pido disculpas por lo sucedido. Fue primera vez. Yo pensé.
I'm just going to go over a couple of things, like sentence by sentence, Wilder, if you just like say them too.
Okay.
These are the governor's COVID-19 guidelines that we are tasked with enforcing and regulating at the licensing board.
Estas son las reglas que el gobierno y la ciudad de Boston juntos escribió y que todo el mundo se tienen que escuchar. So, esto es lo que ella va a explicar ahora. Go ahead.
Perfecto.
Any violation found of these COVID-19 guidelines could result in the suspension of his annual liquor license.
Ella te está dejando saber que si hay alguna persona que no están escuchando a estas reglas, que ellos te pueden quitar la licencia de bebida.
Sí, lo entiendo perfecto.
Only 6 people can sit at a table.
Ella dice que solamente 6 personas pueden sentarse en la mesa una vez.
Okay.
Tables need to be 6 feet apart.
Las mesas tienen que estar 6 pies aparte.
Está muy bien.
Patrons cannot be sitting down without masks unless they're eating or drinking.
Que la gente que van a entrar para comer su cena no pueden entrar sin máscara. Si están sentados y están comiendo, obviamente no tienen que tener las máscaras. Pero si están esperando para su comida o algo así, tienen que tener sus máscaras puestas todo el tiempo. ¿Entiendes?
Okay.
And as Wilda said, there's no karaoke allowed right now.
Y otra vez, como te dije ahorita, ustedes no se pueden ahora para nunca porque no lo tienes en la licencia, pero para ahora no hay karaoke para nadie. Eso, si ustedes iban a aplicar para un one time, no se podía hacer por lo que está pasando ahora.
Okay, le pido mil disculpas.
Patrons are supposed to be at your restaurant for eating and drinking only, not for karaoke and not for any other entertainment.
Ella dice que solamente la gente puede ir a su lugar para comer y para beber, no para música y no para hacer otras cosas de karaoke o nada así, solamente para entrar, comer, beber y entonces se tienen que ir.
Okay.
Your capacity is 19. Right now, the governor has permitted 40% of capacity to be in your restaurant at one time. That would be 8 people.
8 people. Ella dice que ahora su capacidad otra vez es 19 y el gobierno están diciendo que la gente que puedan entrar a la misma, de tu capacidad de 19 son 40%. So eso debe de ser 8 gente total puede estar en su restaurante a la vez, no más.
Ok.
¿Entiende eso?
Sí,
So,
perfecto.
si hay una familia de 10 total, solamente pueden tener 8. ¿Entiende?
Ok.
So it's 8 patrons, not including staff. So he can have staff on top of the 8 patrons, but 8 people drinking and eating in his establishment right now.
Okay, ella dice que son 8 gente que pueden entrar para beber y para comer, pero no incluido de obviamente la gente que están trabajando ahí y cocinando y cosas así.
Ok.
Does Mr. Dume have any questions for us, Awilda?
Ella quiere saber si usted tiene unas preguntas.
No, está bien. Me regiré por las leyes de Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay, he doesn't have any questions and he understands.
Okay, Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
I have more in the way of a comment. These regulations have changed throughout the pandemic and they're liable to change again. So whether they get less restrictive or more restrictive again, it's your it's your duty to be on top of those changes. I didn't know is not an excuse.
I agree.
El señor dijo que estos cambios pasan cada minuto. Siempre hay un cambio, cada día, cada hora, cada minuto. Y lo que el señor está diciendo es que es tu responsabilidad del manager de saber lo que se puede hacer y lo que no se puede hacer. So, es una excusa diciendo que usted no sabía. Esto es tu restaurant y usted tiene que saber lo que se puede hacer y no que se puede hacer para el salud de la gente que están entrando y comiendo.
Okay.
Okay.
One last thing, Awilda, can you please remind him patrons can only be in the restaurant for 90 minutes at a time?
Okay.
They have to leave 90 minutes.
They have to leave after 90 minutes?
Yep.
Okay. Una cosa más, que la gente entrando para comer su cena y beber solamente para ahora, solamente puede estar ahí adentro para 90 minutos, no más.
Para comer.
Para comer, 90 minutos. Otra vez, no es una cosa que no queremos la gente entrar, comer bien rápido y irse, pero otra vez, la salud de la gente de la ciudad de Boston está en riesgo y tú no puedes estar teniendo a la gente ahí adentro para 3 horas, 4 horas, riéndose y todo eso cuando solamente tienen 90 minutos para cada mesa.
Ok.
¿Ok?
Sí.
Otra vez, pueden cambiar, pero para eso tú tienes que ver la noticia, para ver lo que son los cambios. Si tienes cualquier pregunta, llama a la oficina y nosotros te podemos hablar, pero tú no puedes decir que tú no sabías. ¿Ok?
Está bien.
Ok. All right.
Thanks, Awilda.
Thank you. Is there a motion to vote on this matter today?
I make a motion to vote on this matter.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. Chairwoman Joyce, do you find a violation?
I do find a violation. Awilda, will you translate that?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I find a violation.
Que ella está viendo la violation, señor.
Perdón.
I agree.
Que están hablando del violation, que lo están leyendo y el proceso.
Ok.
Asegurar que tú entiendes. Okay.
I agree as well.
Thank you. So the board finds a violation. Chairwoman, what do you think is an appropriate action?
My recommendation is for a written warning and for Mr. Dume to follow up with our staff regarding these specific violations and his entertainment license.
Que ellos ella dice que te van a dar un written warning, una escrita warning, y que usted tiene que otra vez estar encima de los papeleros, de la noticia, lo que ustedes pueden tener y lo que se puede hacer y lo que no se puede hacer. y también hablar con el board para si hay otras preguntas o si necesitas ayuda con algo, que tienes que hablar con ellos. Y otra vez de la licencia de entertainment, que podemos hablar de eso otro día.
Ok.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so the board finds a warning and will issue a written warning and request that the licensee follow up with the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing. And Wilda, I will work with you on that,
Okay.
making sure that we have a translation of that written.
Okay.
Oh, Wilda, one more thing. Could you let Mr.
Yep.
Dume know that these are very serious violations? And he is risking his annual liquor license by not abiding by these and keeping on top of the changes in these COVID-19 guidelines. Should he be found in violation again, his license could be suspended.
Okay. Señor, ella te está dejando saber otra vez que estos allegations, tú viniendo para esta reunión hoy es bien serio. Otra vez, estamos hablando de la salud de la gente que están entrando para comer su cena y que si esto pase otra vez, que hay quizás que te puedan quitar la licencia del año de bebida. So la directora quiere que usted sepa que esto es algo bien serio. Otra vez, no lo hagas otra vez. Para ahora, la ciudad de Boston está en una mala situación, so no lo hagas otra vez y otra vez, cualquier cosa nos llama y bregamos de ahí, ¿ok?
Ok, gracias.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Wilda, for your help.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
¿Puedo llamar al City Hall?
Tú puedes, tú puedes llamar a City Hall para la oficina de licor.
Ajá.
Sí, tú puedes llamar, dígame.
De la licencia de la...
O de entertainment. Rebecca te va a mandar un email de la licencia del entertainment y te va a explicar por qué no te lo mandamos todavía.
Ok, gracias.
Okay, de nada. Okay. He was just asking entertainment license. Sorry, he was asking about his entertainment license. And if he can call about that, but I just let him know that Rebecca's going to email or contact him.
Thank you both very much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Gracias, señor. Tenga buen día.
Gracias a ustedes.
Gracias.
Calling item 3, calling Hampshire House Corporation, doing business as 75 on Liberty Wharf. The license premise is 220 Northern Avenue. The date of the incident is February 5th, 2021. Failure to adhere to the governor's executive order and the board's advisory limiting capacity to 25% of total seating capacity, excluding staff. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Marcus Ripperger. I'm the CEO of the Hampshire House Corporation.
Are there any?
Hughes, I'm the manager of 75 Liberty Wharf.
I'm sorry, what was Mr. Hughes' first name?
Michael.
Michael. Any other individuals on behalf of the licensee present? Gail Richmond. Who is present?
Gail, you gotta put your voice up.
Sorry, Gail Richmond.
No worries. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department who wishes to testify?
I will be.
Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Sergeant Detective Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you, Sergeant. If you could all please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Detective, you may proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'm going to be reading the police report which I wrote on Friday, February 5th, 2021, about 11:10 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez signed to license unit will perform bar checks of restaurants during the COVID-19 emergency. Walking into 75 on Liberty Restaurant located at 220 Northern Avenue, detectives noted the establishment appeared to be over their capacity. Check of the premises common victualer's license revealed that the restaurant's normal outside patio capacity is 16 patrons. Under the governor's and Boston's licensing board temporary COVID restrictions, the premise must operate at a reduced capacity of 25% of its normal capacity. That figure would be 15 patrons. Detective Hernandez conducted a count of the outside patio and found 25 patrons. Detectives reiterated the importance of the governor's COVID guidelines and the Boston's licensing board advisory on the current prohibition of no more than 25% of the overall capacity of a licensed premise. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Miss Amy Aristani. Ms. Aristani stated that she would bring the establishment's capacity into compliance. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 004058. This notice was to failure to adhere to the governor's COVID guidelines and the Boston's licensing board advisory on the prohibition of no more than 25% of the overall capacity of a licensed premise, overcrowding of the establishment. Ms. Aristani signed for and accepted the notice. Detectives also informed Ms. Aristani that 75 on Liberty is to appear before the Boston's licensing board for emergency hearing on Tuesday, February 9, 2021 at 11 a.m. Ms. Aristani was provided an emergency license premise hearing notice. That's it.
Thank you, Detective. Mr. Ripperger, would you like to make a statement?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to apologize for taking your time. We're extremely serious about what we do, especially through this pandemic. We run 3 different restaurants, and we've always adhered with the changing guidelines. And I'd like to apologize that we're actually here. What I'd like to bring up today is this was found on the patio outside. We've created igloos on the patios. We got a total of 8 igloos that sit each at a maximum of 6 patrons. We're very diligent about our 90-minute guideline on making people get in, get out. We sanitize in between patrons. We have a 15-minute capacity in between each reservation. So everything needs to be spot on and clean and sanitized. I'd like to entertain a special provision for igloos as they're outside, as they're separate tables. So each patron only sits with their invited guests. And a lot of, or most of the time, it's families and people that live with each other. And so they're completely separate from the public. There's also an entrance that patrons don't have to go inside the restaurant if they don't want to. And so they sit in an igloo. We have 1 server per igloo. So consider it as safe as possible. I understand the limits and the restrictions and the guidelines, and I just wanted to see what your feedback is on the igloo, as that is somewhat different than regular restaurant operations.
Are there any other comments the licensee would like to make before we turn to questions? Seeing none, Chairwoman Joyce?
Thank you, Mr. Rippinger. I do know that we will update our guidance, our advisories to reflect that outdoors on patios, even on private patios, have to follow the capacity guidelines set by the state. To address your suggestion for an amendment, that is something you would have to take up with the state. We don't create these advisories and these guidelines. These come down to us from the state. They are confusing. They do change. We are in constant contact with the state with specific questions like this. But we have been told that the outdoor capacity, regardless of whether there's an igloo or not, is set. Right now it's 40%. If you are looking for an exemption for your igloos, you'll have to address that directly with the state. It's our job to enforce these regulations and to regulate them. We don't create them. We don't set the policy.
I understand.
Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Seeing no questions, Chairwoman Joyce, would you like to make a motion to vote on this matter?
I make a motion to vote on this matter.
Do we have a second?
Second. Sorry.
Commissioner Curran seconds. All in favor?
Yes.
Chairwoman Joyce, do you find a violation?
I find a violation.
I agree.
Board finds a violation. What do you think is an appropriate action?
My recommendation is for a warning, a written warning.
I agree.
Thank you. The board will issue a written warning, and we will also update our advisory, as the chairwoman stated, to make it clear that the capacity restrictions apply outside. And we, as the chairwoman said, any exemption is made directly to the state, but we will provide you that contact information as well.
Thank you.
There are no other matters before the board today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.